Hello, everybody. This is Sarah from Bookish. Here we go. Sarah from Bookish here, and I am here to introduce to you our writer in residence, Hayleigh Worgan. She's a freelance writer, publisher, educator, and the former editorial director for Bella magazine. In 2016, she completed her first novel, The Huntsman, a modern retelling of Red Riding Hood. And last year, she published her most recent poetry collection, I Used to Live Here. Maybe that was 2 years ago at this point, huh, Hayleigh?
It might be, yeah. I think it was the beginning of 2020. But
Yeah. So through her company, Zelda Media, she also publishes Persephone, a literary magazine featuring independent writers. And through her writer-in-residence role at Bookish, she has helped to organize literary events to serve writers and readers in the Fort Smith area. I have learned so much from Hayleigh this year, and this is one of the fantastic events that she has helped put together. So Hayleigh, thank you for being here, and I will mute now so my dog won't mess up our event.
Oh, hi everyone. So my dog isn't here. He would probably be messing up our end as well. I am actually here today to introduce you to the author we are going to be talking with today. And thank you so much, Sarah, for that introduction. It has been an honor to be the first writer in residence in this program. One of the things that I've really enjoyed is the ability to help introduce people to others in the community who can help achieve their dreams and achieve their goals and help tell their story. That's the goal of Zelda Media, is to help people tell their story. So with that in mind, Samuel Sanders actually reached out to us a couple of months ago, and it has taken me a little while to get myself together over here. And he has got this incredible book, and today he's going to share some things about it. Now, Samuel is actually an award-winning entrepreneur. He's a member of the Nonfiction Authors Association and has seen entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity, problem solving, and ideation in action at a Fortune 500 company, an Inc. 5,000 fastest growing company, incubators and companies he started himself. So a lot of experience here, guys. If you have a business or an idea that you just really want to take off, this is going to be a great video for you to see. So in his book he's released, and we have it here at Bookish, it's called Your Next Big Idea. He takes the lessons he learned from these vastly different worlds and combines them into an all-in-one book that will show you how to tackle problems and come up with game-changing ideas. Sam enjoys contributing his ideas to numerous thought leadership publications, which you can see on his website, yournextbigideabook.com. He grew up just outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, before attending Syracuse University. He currently lives in Washington, D.C., not too far from my old hometown, actually. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Samuel Sanders.
Hi. Wow, what a grand introduction. That was really great. Yeah. I was like, originally in my notes, I was like, oh, let me just write down some things to say about myself, but you nailed it. You really were on top of it. So that's great. Thank you so much for the introduction, Hayleigh. So I am the author of Your Next Big Idea. And like when I usually start talking about Your Next Big Idea, I start by talking about why I decided to write Your Next Big Idea. So as it was mentioned before, I've worked for some really large scale companies, smaller scale companies, and then I've been a founder myself. And what I found is when we teach entrepreneurship and creativity, we always talk about like the big companies, like we'll talk about Google or Facebook, but we never really talk about how those people got those ideas in the first place. And so that leaves kind of a disconnect where many people are just kind of wondering like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Or like, how come I didn't come up with that idea? And so Your Next Big Idea was written with that in mind, to be almost that like prerequisite to understand the ideation process and, hopefully help you find your next big idea, as funny as that is. So to get started, like, I think it would be fun for Hayleigh and I to do one of the like creativity exercises in the book. So the book has a lot of different exercises. It's meant to, try and like spark creativity, get the creative juices flowing. And this is one of my favorites. It's by IDEO, which is a design thinking firm. And so they create like lots of really crazy products. So it's really simple. So what you're going to do, Hayleigh, if you have a sheet of paper, is you're gonna write just a bunch of circles. Maybe you can do like 4x4, or you can go like 4x7, whatever you think makes sense. So I'm just gonna finish filling out here, and I'll give us like a minute to do that. And if you're watching online, then you can go ahead, draw some circles on a piece of paper, and then I'll give you next steps in a minute here. So Hayleigh, just let me know whenever you're ready.
Okay, now I might actually need them again, Samuel, because you kind of faded out for a second.
Okay,
so I might actually need that instruction again. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that'll be great. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of paper. My circle drawing is like amateur at best. But what you're going to do is you're going to draw circles, and you can do, 4x4, you can do 4x6, and just draw them along the page. And then whenever you have like, a set of circles, just let me know.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to, do this for like maybe a minute or two. And what you're going to do is you're going to take each of those circles and you're going to make a picture out of them. So right here, I'll just give an example so that like anybody watching online can get a sense. So I took my first circle and I made a little sunshine. Granted, I'm not the best drawer, but what we're going to go through is we'll go through and try and do as many circles as we can and try and, get those creative juices going. So we'll go ahead and start now. And if you're watching online, you can either skip ahead or you can go ahead and join in and just have fun and draw.
Gosh, you can really tell I'm a writer here because these images are going to be really, really funny, I think.
Yeah, it's always funny. Like you think like, oh, I have one or two, and then all of a sudden you run out of ideas, and then it just like all of a sudden like sparks again. And the quality, it's all about getting your thinking going.
Yeah.
I think I drew too many circles.
Oh yeah, it gets really hard. Yeah, the more you do, the more you're like, uh-oh, it runs out.
Yeah. I have 2 left. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome. Good job.
Okay.
Okay. So I also have some left. So you are even faster than I was, Hayleigh. So go ahead if you want to like share some or share some that you created, and then tell us, whoa.
I have a whole bunch.
Oh my God.
I know.
Wow.
I get really excited. So I copied your idea of the sun.
Okay,
right?
cool.
And then I've got this little guy up here who is probably my favorite.
I love that.
And then a flower, and then I have several people, and definitely a snowman here on the bottom that's kind of like connected by a stick.
Yeah.
And a dog, because I'm a dog person for sure. So.
Oh, those are great. Yeah, so I also had a snowman here on the top. So we were just thinking the same thing. I had a little bomb and a little like target, made, I guess, a Pokeball and a rolling pin. There you go. So did you create anything good or?
What did you get, Sarah?
Oh, me? So sorry, I didn't really hear you. No, nothing
What's
good.
That bicycle?
I have a witch. I did. I have a bicycle. and an owl, and a Ferris wheel, and some Harry Potter glasses,
Ooh,
and a wheel, and a lollipop, and an apple, and a pumpkin, and a sun that I
love
copied off
that.
you guys, and a
Oh, that's
flower.
so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely something that really just kind of gets the juices going. Haley, you did great. Sarah, you also did great. You should give yourself some credit. Like it's really hard when you first get it, especially if it's just like not your natural talents. But it's important to push yourself in like areas that you aren't necessarily most naturally strong in, and try some new things. So that's a creative exercise by IDEO. They're like a design thinking firm. So they work with all the big players, like the big companies, helping them trying to figure out new products. So they, do fun little drawing exercises, just like the rest of us. So part of the reason that I came here today is I really want to talk about brainstorming, and I want to talk about mind mapping. So brainstorming is the process of coming up with creative ideas and solutions to problems in a rapid, free thinking process. So in your next big idea, I talk about the 20 rules for brainstorming, but since we're going to focus on mind mapping, there are really 5 that I feel like are really important to this process. So the first is to encourage wild ideas. So brainstorming is kind of one of those things where, there aren't really that many rules. You really should just go out there. And there are a couple of reasons that I talk about encouraging wild ideas is sometimes a wild idea may not be as wild as people think, but other times it's often can inspire something else. When we talk, one example of this is NASA uses lotus flowers as inspiration for their spray on some of their equipment, because the lotus flower has like bumps on it so that dirt doesn't stick to it, because when it rains, the water comes down and all of the dirt that's stuck on it gets washed off. And so like there are really wild connections out there. And so like sometimes these wild ideas can really inspire something else. So the second thing I talk about brainstorming is to make sure to add and not edit. So when we're going through brainstorming, you could want to like try and change something or cross something out, but brainstorming is not really the time to do that. Once you're done the brainstorming process, you can go through, you can take a look and try and edit down some of the ideas. But during the brainstorming process, just add. If you want to make a note to something, just add something next to it. The third thing is to build on ideas. So brainstorming is all about building. Not everything needs to necessarily come from scratch. So like even in the circle exercise, what sometimes you do is like you'll do like maybe a basketball, and the next one you might do a baseball. And it's like it's okay to build. Like that kind of building is something that's important in the creative process. It doesn't have to be like, something totally brand new every time. So building is important. And then the next step I want to talk about is not worrying. When you're solo brainstorming, it's a little easier because it's just by yourself and you're thinking. But in a group setting, it can be concerning and it can be like nerve-wracking to put yourself out there and like give out your ideas. And so it's really important as a leader to create an environment where everybody feels comfortable sharing, and everybody like would even feel encouraged to share. And then also like as an individual, either sometimes even by yourself, like try and alleviate some of that, where put some stuff down and work a little bit at a time, because everybody kind of goes at a different pace. And so it's important to try and just put your best foot forward. And the last step is to have fun. Like the more you can make a brainstorming exercise fun, the better results you're going to have. If it feels like work, like people are not going to want to do it. They have like their everyday tasks that they need to do, and they'll be like, why am I doing this? And so it's really important to make it fun, and reduce that worry while encouraging all of those great ideas. So my favorite way of documenting this brainstorming is through a process called mind mapping. And so mind mapping is basically like a note-taking method for brainstorming, but it does even a little bit more than that. So when creating a mind map, there's one rule. So the rule is that you have something in the center, or something that you're building off of, that is like your foundational idea. And then from there, you can create lines and spread different information off of it in a brainstorming type of method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen if I can successfully do this here.
Here, let me.
Okay. I'll share this. Oops, screen. Sorry. Okay. So can you guys see that?
Yes.
I can.
Okay, so this is a simple mind map. This is straight from Your Next Big Idea, an example I give just to show people, you know, what you can make a mind map of. So here, this is something like very simple, like what should I eat for dinner? But there are a couple things that you should notice about this. There are like different categories of types of food that I talk about, like maybe I want to eat, but it also just has like ideas like, oh, a bagel sounds yummy, like, oh, but maybe that's not filling enough. It's not necessarily everything needs to be like the direct answer. On top of that, like mind maps have the ability for you to connect ideas in all different ways. So down here, you know, we have chicken and pasta, and then I'm thinking, oh, maybe chicken parm is something good. So you can connect these ideas, even though they weren't necessarily built off each other. The mind map has the liberty of doing that. So mind maps are a pretty flexible tool, and there are basically 6 different things that I talk about adjusting. So the first is size. So here we don't have really that much of size adjustments, but you can adjust the size of words, the size of bubbles, anything that kind of fits. The second is color. And so like if you're working with, you know, maybe color pencils, or you're, you know, trying to get something that maybe color would be beneficial for, you know, that's something you can do. The third is number of lines, or how the lines are arranged. And so, you know, as you can see, this mind map is a little like all over the place. The lines are going everywhere, and that's something that helps in that free thinking process. The last 2 are number of words, so you can add, you know, as much as you want to a bubble. And then the last one is structure. So you can structure it how you want. So what I'm going to go through here is scroll to the next mind map. So after I talk about some of these mind mapping adjustments you can make, here I create a mind map saying I have a brand new garden. What do I want to plant in my garden? And so here you can see there are things of all different sizes. There are plenty of different colors. The lines are connecting all over the place to catch that rapid free thinking process to make sure we don't miss anything. There are some images that I drew for myself. And obviously there are a large amount of words, and this structure is different. So the structure is I actually put my main idea on the bottom and built it out of the ground like a garden. But you know, each individual mind map and what we're working on can be different and fit to what you want. So what we're going to go ahead and do, and if you're following along online, we're going to go ahead and create a mind map ourselves. So the first step is to identify an idea that you want to center it around. So if you're thinking maybe, you know, because this is a bookstore, we could talk about creating a fiction story if that's something that you're interested in. We could talk about, in the book, I focus about like work-related problems or personal problems you're facing where you're trying to brainstorm around that. If that's something that fits for you, then you could create something like that. We could do something like inventing a new meal or inventing a new toy. Or just create your own. So I'll give each of us a second here to just pick a mind map. You can pick from the choices that I went through, or you can go ahead and create your own. So whatever works here, and then we'll talk about our central idea. And then when you are ready, you guys can let me know.
So as I was kind of planning this, because I went through several steps, one of the things that really stuck out to me is right before this chapter on mind mapping, you talk about stigma, and I don't mean to change the subject, but it led me into an idea for my mind map. Because you mentioned that with stigma, there's this stigma around if you don't work a 9-to-5 job. Right? There's a stigma around that sometimes, and you have to get past that. And I cannot remember the last time I worked a 9-to-5 job, right? I work with clients, I do a lot of freelance stuff, and my biggest problem is that I don't really set aside time for myself. Like, you know, I have a hard time saying no to clients. So if they say, hey, I need you at the last minute for 2 hours, instead of spending time with my loved ones or doing something else, I tend to not, because there's a stigma around that too. There's a stigma around saying, no, I need some me space. in order to come to you with my best self. So I guess I don't really know how to present that as a mind map, but just being able to set aside time to be my most effective self and, manage my time a little bit better, might be.
Yeah. So what I would say is, like, when we're talking about, and this is going to some of the other sections of the book, but when we're talking about problems, we're really scaling it back and trying to like work on just like what the problem is, and then like the mind map the solution. So it's like, okay, maybe I'm feeling like my time is like not in my control. Like, I'm working all different types of hours. I'm having trouble saying no. And so like, it's like, okay, that's like the root kind of problem that I'm working with. And then it's just like, so then I would put like something like that in the center of my mind map. And then we can like work off like some of that. And it's just like, oh, okay, now like here are some, and like you're already spitting out solutions, which is great. It sounds like you've had some thought about it, so that's awesome. But then you can work off some of that. And if there's a solution you like, you can kind of, build off that solution. And if there's enough off that solution, it could warrant its own mind map. So it's just kind of whatever works for you in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's great. It's great that you recognize that, because some people just get caught in the cycle. And I'll just touch on like stigmas real quick now for anybody watching. So stigmas are kind of repeated stigmas are repeated patterns that we follow without kind of realizing it, that can stop us from being basically our most efficient selves, or most efficient in a business sense. And when I talk about this, like in a business sense, it's like, when we question why we do something, so say we follow a certain process, it's really important to understand, is that still the most efficient process, or is that still, like the most, innovative way to do something? And from a personal perspective, like I have habits, like, well, a good example I give is I used to walk to work like the same exact way every day. And then they opened up a new street that actually was a faster way, but I was just like so set in my ways, like this is how I walk to work, like I just like missed out on that opportunity to save me a couple minutes, every day. So stigmas are things like that kind of are those repeated patterns that hold back from like some of the really creative ideas. And they're in industry, they're in personal lives, they adapt differently to depending the situation. So it's important to try and recognize those. So it's great great that you recognize that. So yeah, that's great. Okay, so you got an excellent center to your mind map here. So the first thing that I would say is just like when we get started with the mind map, the first thing you think about is structure. So you just like think how you want this to kind of look and build. Like, a lot of times like I'll be building a mind map and it's just like, oh, I ran out of space this way or whatever. Or like if my ideas are going to build off one direction in a lot of sense, maybe it makes sense to make it look a certain way. So that's the first thing. And so you write down that in the center. So the second step is to just add some layers, add some bubbles. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do something a little outside of my comfort zone, because I typically write nonfiction and I do a lot of like data heavy work. So I'm going to try and create a fiction story. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, but it's something that I think is really fun and really cool as a reader. So we'll see how I do. So yeah. So what I'm going to do is we'll start by just making a couple of bubbles here just around our basic ideas. And it's great that you're working with like a problem-oriented one as well, so we can show both sides of it. So let's go ahead and get started. See if you can create, a couple different bubbles. And if you're watching online, you could either go ahead, skip forward, or, come along online or come along and just create some bubbles yourself as well. Okay, and so when you guys are ready, the first step that we're going to try, and we'll go through a couple different steps here, is to add a size-based element. So that was one of the things that I talked about before. So see if there's something that either would come up really big, really small, or like even just like a bubble that's kind of a small idea. However, it makes sense for your mind map. See if you can introduce a size-based element. So we can go ahead and do that. And then when you guys are ready, you can add a color. If you guys have a colored, either like a color pencil, or if you have like just a pencil, just like a darker or lighter color, add some kind of color-based element to it, then that'll help, reflect maybe some of the ideas related to it. And then when you guys are ready, you can try and connect two things in your mind map that maybe you wouldn't necessarily connect, but if you thought about connecting them, you can see if you can create a new idea. So see if you can do something funky with the lines. And then the last part, when you are ready, is you can add image-based elements. So if you guys have an image you want to add to your mind map or something that would be more picture-oriented, you can go ahead and do that now. And then you have worked through all of the different adjustments. So that's the last step. Okay. And then when you guys are ready, we can share. If you want to work a little longer, that's fine too. You know.
I want to see Sarah.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful.
It's a brain.
Oh, so cool.
And so my problem was, or not my problem, but my theme was how to raise bookstore event attendance.
Nice. Very nice.
I think I may have come up with a solid answer. So
yeah, that's great.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you guys both worked on like real problems as I like, you know, I've just written about problems for so long. I was like, let me take a creative approach. So it's great that you guys are using it for that purpose. I think that's fantastic. And that's great that you got some answers. What about you, Hayleigh? What do you got?
So mine, Sarah, your examples look so great, and I feel like inadequate over here. But mine, so I only had a highlighter and a pen, right? So obviously my problem is trouble saying no. So I have like this one like wishful solution of winning the lottery and moving to Barcelona, but then I decided I would run into the same problem there, and it would be problem. So my real solution is to create a set schedule on my website and also with a client. And then I even have this little phrase at the bottom: I want to be respectful of your time. So I want to bring my best self to your time. So in order to do that, I need to maybe come up with a different suggestion or solution.
Yeah, that's a really important lesson. That's great. That's great. Wow. You guys are blowing it out of the water here. It's just like so impressive. All right, so my mind map is a little messy as well. So I tried to create a fiction story. And so there's a lonely encyclopedia in a bookstore. And there are a few people that know about this encyclopedia. And so when you read the encyclopedia, as you gain more knowledge, you also gain like more youth, like a fountain of youth. So you like, it stops aging as well. And so there's like an elite group of people that know about this, and they try to give it to people that they feel like are very high value in society, people that are making really positive change. Like you think like Nobel Peace Prize people and stuff like that. But accidentally, like a character stumbles upon it, and he or she didn't even say, but works for a hospital. And so he like reads passages to patients. And so more people start to find out about the book. And that's as far as I've gotten. So that's where we're at.
That's pretty good.
So yeah.
I feel like Sarah and I we're present in the first stages of you planning your next book that you'll come to.
There you go. That would be a really big switch for my fans. So I mean, maybe I I never kind of put that stuff off, and it's, you never know. And it's important to write things that not only like I think could add value, but make me happy as well. So maybe we'll see. Yeah. So, like going and jumping back to mind maps in general as a creative tool, both for like problem solving and just, creativity in general, there are a couple reasons I really like them. So the first is they follow the craziness of how we think. we don't really think linearly, and like a lot of times lists are set up like that. So sometimes it's like we jump to one idea, but then we think, oh, what about this idea? And we could connect the dots in all different ways. Mind maps provide a ton of flexibility in note taking. They're very fast, so you can like really set things up as you want and what makes sense. They connect the relationship between ideas. So sometimes somebody reading a mind map can very quickly like see how your thought process is going. And so if you need to share with other people, it's a great tool for that. And it encourages you to build off ideas as well, which is a really important part of both, finding big ideas, as like a creative or as an entrepreneur, but also an important part of just trying to be innovative in general. And then it's visual. So it's you're definitely going to remember it better than just, like a note you've written down. And the last thing is it's really customized to the individual or whoever's working on the mind map. It's like a very individualistic type of tool that really can follow your patterns, and that's really great. So that's the mind mapping chapter, and that's really kind of a summary of mind mapping. There are a ton of exercises in your next big idea that work on other creative aspects. And it's a book that I tried to really design with the reader in mind. So there are different areas where you can stop reading, and I encourage you to read different chapters next based on how comfortable you feel. And there are a lot of more surprises, exercises, stuff like this along the way. So I just want to thank both of you, Sarah and Hayleigh, for having me here. This is really great, and I had a lot of fun. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. I think Hayleigh's frozen, but she can hear us okay. But oh, yeah. But yeah, this was wonderful. Hayleigh, did you have any more questions?
So honestly, I feel like he's answered a lot of them, that I kind of wrote down. And really, this has helped me a lot. I don't know about you, but
yeah.
Do you feel like it helped you a lot, Sarah? Yeah.
Sure. Whenever I made the line to try to connect them, for me to get some therapy here, we'll talk about this. So I was talking about the attendance of like an in-person event versus a virtual event. And I kind of realized that even though I might get more people who come to an in-person event and I get immediate book sales, the residuals of people being able to watch virtual events whenever they want and for how, it can be available for months and months and months or whatever, might be better. So it's just something to think about that I haven't thought about before. And so I kind of made those book sales lines. That's what formed my brain shape.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Anyway, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm so used to wanting that immediate, and it kind of made me think differently about how I see that. So thank you.
Yeah. That is so awesome. That is so awesome. And I wanted to say this too. This is something that I made a note of before. This is one of the reasons why I find your work so incredible, Samuel, is that, I've seen a lot of incredible startups in this area, and some of them have really taken off, and then others have struggled or closed, and many it's due to the pandemic, right? And it breaks my heart because I understand that this is someone's dream and they're really struggling. Yeah. And some of them may have even seen it as the death of their dream, and so to kind of be able to go back and find solutions this way is so powerful and important. So thank you for doing this work.
Yeah. I mean, thank you guys for hosting this event and, spreading the word. It's really challenging to start a company. And so making sure that you really have a solid foundation and a really good idea moving forward is, extremely important to success. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So we can find you on yournextbigidea.com. Anywhere else so that we can look and find you?
No, yournextbigidea.com is the best place. There's you can sign up, get some additional content. I highly encourage you to continue to, obviously if you're watching this, you love independent bookstores, but I highly encourage you to continue to do your shopping with independent bookstores. They are the best. It's just so much of a better experience. So you could take a look, see what you think. And, thank you so much again. I'm just like, I just had so much fun. I'm a little giddy.
And we do have copies in the store, so you come by and grab one, or give us a call and we'll hold you a copy. So thank you. Thanks, Sam. Thank you, Hayleigh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.